What's good, everyone? This is Trey, Jake, and Micah with the vibe check.
Your perspective can make a huge difference on a lot of things.
So,
Yeah.
So if you were to have a perspective on say just how you a tree or something, everyone's going to view it differently. They're going to see different things. They're going to see more branches and more you, but not everyone's going to see the same thing.
Yeah. I get your point, but I feel like that was a terrible analogy.
I basically heard it through someone. It was like, oh, not everyone sees the same tree. So
but everyone sees the same tree, though. It's a fucking tree.
But they're going to notice other things that you won't see, though.
Yeah, all right. Okay,
they're going to notice that leaf compared to the leaf that you see.
So instead of tree, you could say situation and whatnot.
Okay.
You could because one single situation can be seen by hundreds of people, and there will be hundreds of stories about that one specific situation that might be true, that might not be true, that might be true, but it's a little different from everyone else's.
During the whole George Floyd situation, there was this video of there's a white dude just getting jumped by a bunch of black kids, and that's all you saw in the video. And what's crazy is the full story is the craziest shit ever. But it's you see that video and what do you think? This white dude is getting jumped by a bunch of black peoples. They're mobbing, they're rioting. Look what happened. And it turns out this white dude is in this gated community, right? And then he takes it upon himself to say, I have to protect my neighbors. So you know what he does? He grabs his machete, leaves his gated community, and goes out for people just walking, protesting. And he starts pointing a sword at a bunch of people. Well, what happens when you point a sword at a bunch of people?
What the fuck do you think is gonna happen?
You get jumped and he got his ass beat.
What?
And that was the video. But then it's they weren't doing nothing. They get threatened with a sword, so of course you get jumped. That's what's gonna happen. But it's they see the video yeah, look at these terrorists, look at these rioters, and they were just chilling, vibing, protesting wrong that's been done. And it's
and
you take it upon yourself
dude
to
comes at you with a sword, y'all.
My man pulled up with a sword.
A sword. What are you doing?
So it's we're in an age of social media where little people. So not everyone's going to get the full story. So it's more whatever you videotape, that's what people will see. That's what's going to be the broader audience.
And
so it's going to be oh, that's what they see. So they're going to make their perspective on it. They're oh, this guy.
Perspective also goes into initial thoughts. You know how some people would just see something and automatically assume this is what happened, and other people are well, we don't know what actually happened. But other times you see the videos bro, we just saw the video. That's what happened. That's what happens. Yeah. But then something that doesn't favor your situation, they do it. And you see a lot of that back and forth.
Yeah.
And I feel that's really important to look at. And then something else, I feel right now, especially with the age of TikTok, if you look on it, you see so many people talking about culture appropriation, people being ignorant, this and that. It's you were this old, you should know. But I'm think about it. If you never experienced something, never had to deal with something, how can you understand it?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so with that and whatnot. What people don't get is okay, so you have to really think about it. Your brain is kind of done, kind of growing at a certain point and whatnot. So the older generation, they're gonna be the way that they are, just cause and there's not a whole lot that they can really do about it and whatnot, cause they literally don't have the capacity to.
And it's a quote from Mark Twain. It says, it's easy to fool somebody, but it's really difficult to convince someone they've been fooled. And it's
yeah.
And see, this perspective of, someone that walks a black, dark-skinned dreadhead with a hoodie on, their initial instinct is, that guy is dangerous. That guy is a criminal. And it's not their fault because they've been taught, this picture means this. And that black and white idea is really, really hard to get out of your head.
Yeah.
Here's one thing, I have a question for y'all. We're in an age, to where it's hard to find proper sources to, of certain information. So you hear one thing, and it's well, going based off your own thoughts, it's this kind of adds up to do, to ends up being the situation that it is. So, and then, you have some questions oh, where do you get your sources? But you kind of use your own mind to, sort it out logically, thinking oh, that's kind of how, that's a good way of how it would be. But is it more accurate sources, or like you're going based off like this might be the truth, like, but you're not willing to accept it.
You say like it's hard to find good sources, but I somewhat disagree with that. It's hard to find good sources quickly. Like, you can't just do a Google search. Because honestly, you can Google search and you can find the answer you want. You can ignore a bunch of different search resources and you can search for specific answer you want. See, one of the things I tell a lot of people when they're like trying to figure something out or believe something or trying to like solve something, I'm like, assume everything is completely wrong and find everything you can on the information to support that everything's wrong. Then find information to prove everything's completely right. Look at that, and then you cross-source both sides, and then once you find the inconsistencies, that's where you find the truth. But people, that takes time, right? And people want to answer quickly. And when you're mad, you're not looking to like do that. But being able to be mad but calm yourself down to actually be reasonable and think through situations, I think that's the most important part.
I agree.
Yeah, and just to kind of like piggyback off of that, like most people, they don't really want to really do a lot of work. Like they don't want to look through multiple like sources and see what's actually right. Like usually what will go on is like, okay, all right, so this just like broke out. All right, there's news on like this. Let me go search it, and then okay, I'll just read like the top 3 or 4 things that I see and whatnot. And those top, like, there are probably like hundreds of things out there that are like those top 3 and whatnot. And like you have to look through multiples of those to get like a good, accurate kind of like thing. And most people don't want to do that.
Yeah, because we all go to university, so we were all like credit your sources, go in to like look who the person wrote it. But do you think like people are willing to like go in further, go into finding out what they are researching, like who wrote it, where that person studied, where they get there? It's I think it's like hard.
Yeah, like if you really want, like, if a person really wants to, they're going to do all of that work and whatnot, because it legitimately, like, they want to know about it. But a lot of people think that they want to know about it, but they don't really want to. Like, they have a, like, conception of, okay, I'm just going to see what it's about and then say that, oh, hey, I looked into it. When in reality, you kind of looked, but you didn't really look.
Is it more like boosting like someone's ego, like, oh, because I want to be right in this argument, or just like, oh, because blah blah blah, and like, oh, where you get your sources, like, oh, just trying to win that argument for that time,
right? Yeah, and it's like, okay,
and then the next day they're gonna go off and eat a sandwich or something.
Yeah. So,
but to go back to like perspective part, so like a lot of things is like, a lot of black people were yelling at white people like, hey, see it from our perspective. Stop being so ignorant. But a lot of black people refuse to see it from a white person's perspective.
Yeah, no, that's...
I'm white.
That is
because we're on a podcast, we're not on a video, I'm white.
Yeah. They can tell me.
Like, no, that's something that I've seen too. It's really just the kind of culture and the environment that like a lot of black people grow up in.
I feel like that word culture gets thrown around a lot. People don't really know what it means.
Yeah, like
by definition, it means a way of life for people, right?
Yeah,
which that means a lot, like the way of life. But like, you can say there's black culture. Some people argue, is there white culture? And I would say there is, but like culture goes even deeper to where like the neighborhood you live in, that's the culture. Or the community you live in, that's also your culture.
Yeah. Black
people in Florida may not be anything like black people in New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
And go ahead.
Like, speaking of culture, like, I've seen, like, most of my friends were black, so I grew up in a white neighborhood.
Yeah.
I could walk out and go over to knock on the door and say, hey, let's go play kickball or something, and then I go over to my best friend, who is black, and then I'm like, this is kind of a scary place to be at. Yeah. I'm like, that guy looks kind of mean, but that's just how it is, but I'm like... And so, once I'm with him and then we kind of like share our similarity. I'm like, okay, yeah, I like basketball too. I like going, hanging out, doing the same things. I kind of find like a similarity with them.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's like deep down, it's like I feel like there's just a cultural difference. Like,
well, yeah, and like there is, but I mean, like you can't really let that stop you from like seeing other people's cultures and like respecting them and like accepting them, because that's what like a lot of people do. Like they are stuck in their culture. They only want to know their culture, and if it's not their culture, they don't want to hear anything about it. They don't want to try to learn about it. And like they grow up having all of these like beliefs that aren't true. Like they might be true and they might not be true, but most of the time they don't know because they've never experienced it.
I'll admit to have grown up privileged. Parents have done the things for me.
Yeah.
Man, I grew up privileged too.
I mean, I did too.
100%.
Yeah, it's the same here.
But shoot, that's the reason I grew up privileged, because my dad didn't grow up privileged. Bro, I go to my
Same.
grandmother's house, bro. That thing is like a studio apartment, the entire house.
Mm-hmm.
And 10 kids grew up in that house at the same time. I'm like, how you fit 10 kids in this house? Every time I go there, and I just don't understand. The neighborhood's not good. There was a couple of shootings here and there, just a couple months ago, I think. But it's like, now I live in the suburbs. That's where I just grew up. But it's like, every time I go there, I'm reminded of, like, this is what it was like, or this is what it could be like, and this is what I got.
Yeah.
And people, like, they don't really, like, I saw it firsthand because I was there every single Sunday. But it's like, I didn't have to live every single day in that neighborhood, like, knowing that, like, it's dangerous to really go outside sometimes.
Yeah, and that wasn't your life.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't your life. There are people out there that's their life. And, like, they have to deal with that every single day that they wake up.
I'll put it like this. Let's say, like, you've never been, like, you had no worries. Like, your worst worries is, like, they got your Starbucks order wrong, right? And it's like, that's the worst thing you got to deal with. And you're asked to understand years of trauma to where, like, your parents may be fighting you. One parent's not home. A father figure is in and out your house all the time. And you got to deal with that every single day growing up, and then also deal with school and everything. And it's like, how can you understand that if you have if you don't have any actual struggles?
Yeah.
So I grew up in a military family. So I've been around around the world a little bit. And one thing that really amazed me, that kind of made me understand a little bit more, was I went to New York City.
New York.
And so what I realized was that there was a lot of people in a concentrated area. And so I was like, oh, so if you grew up here, especially like in a bad area. Yeah. So I've been, to like to Michigan and New York, to Massachusetts, to all, basically almost the entire United States, to get a perspective of different ways of life. So I'm like, just kind of imagine, like, put yourself in that big city. So take New York City. So it's almost like you have to grow up quick. If you're born there,
100%.
Yeah, you're not gonna be like in Florida where you're gonna be like, okay, it's the sunshine, go out and play with the neighbors. No, you're going down blocks, streets. People are,
you might
going
get
to work.
Killed.
You might get killed. You have to grow up quick. So you're at 6, 7 years old. You gotta grow up really quick and understand what you're doing. And if you make a mistake, because one guy I look up to, his name's Quincy Jones. I don't know if you guys know.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, he basically produced Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
So I look up to him and everything. And he was it was an interview where he was going into like, I went down the wrong block. I got stabbed in my hand. I'm like, what? I'm like, you gotta grow up quick. Like, don't go down that block.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to
avoid
grow
that.
up.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna have to grow up really quick and understand like harsher ways where I was like, all right, I got spanked on my ass compared to stabbed in my hand. So you gotta really understand that.
To put perspective back in, but like I said, like, how is someone who has no struggles supposed to understand people that only know how to struggle? But then you gotta flip it too. Like, people who only have been struggling their whole life, how are they going to understand the perspective of somebody who had no worries ever?
Yeah.
And that part we don't really get to. It's like a lot of black people are asking white people to understand where they're coming from, but they're not gonna understand how someone who has no struggles. We're not gonna put on like color on like struggle and not struggle. We're not gonna do that. But I'm saying like someone who's never had any struggles, and versus someone who's only been struggling. How someone who's only been struggling is supposed to understand the mindset of someone who literally has no worries and don't really understand what it is to feel like what am I gonna eat tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Putting mayonnaise on bread and eating that.
Yeah.
Literally serve sandwiches. Like how you supposed to understand with that when you never known like actual hunger?
So I knew one. You know, in case it matters, he was white too, but he grew up in like the ghetto area.
Yeah.
Cervantes. So it didn't matter where he came from. Like I wanted to be there just to be his friend because I was a good friend with him. And we skated, we hang out, and I just kind of like, he's like, oh yeah, come inside, and I just kind of looked and went to the bathroom, and his sewage was backed up and all that, and his certain stuff was like the paint was chipping, doors were broken. I'm like, you know, that doesn't even matter, man. I what matters really is that I'm here and I'm your friend, bro. And and that was probably like the most fun I've had, because we would go out just and have fun, just enjoying life rather than just focusing on the things that that brought us down.
Yeah.
So, and of course he told me all that stuff. I'm like, that doesn't even matter, man. I enjoy the time now that we have.
Yeah.
And we're just having fun. Doesn't matter where you live, and he's doing good now. He's Coast Guard.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I think so. But and so I felt like it was good for me to at least be his friend and be there. Just helping him in it. It's almost like that music producer thing. You build them up, and you expand and go and change the world. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, man.
Man, I got this document here. I called it Paint Your Own Picture. It was during the whole George Floyd situation. I got tired of seeing the same video or different videos over and over again with people saying completely opposite things, but you're watching the same video. Now I'm like, people will literally look at something and be like, 100% this is what happened, and come to like so many different conclusions, but see the same thing. It's like almost like an abstract painting that's not abstract. It's like you're looking at a picture of a freaking George Washington, perfectly painted George Washington, but you're gonna look at it and say that's Abraham Lincoln. It was like that. It was like looking at a regular picture, but acting like it was an abstract photo. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It was like just saying like, look at the remember the video of the old man walking towards the officers in DC and then he just got dropped. He starts bleeding. They just walk over him. Bro, the things I heard, which I don't see. Here's the thing. I'll be real. I didn't do any research. I don't know what actually happened or full story, full video. But just seeing what people were saying, he was like, it was like he had a device. He was trying to scan them or something.
Stupid. Okay, and that's why like half of the time when you read shit online, just know that there are people that are trolling and that are putting shit intentionally just to get other people mad.
I can
that's happening.
I do understand that.
That's happening, man. There are people who are living for that.
That's what
I understand it, but like this one was actually serious. I think the president even retweeted it. I think Trump was the one that said he had a device trying to scan it. I think Trump was the one that said that. But look, bro. But like, look, I'll be real. I don't care if this man had like a tiny knife,
Brody. What
coming at a bunch of people with armed guns.
What's he gonna do?
You knock this down, this man starts bleeding out. You do not step over the man and keep walking. I don't care who you are.
Like what? He's a old man. What kind of threat was he going to pose to you?
I got a knife. Watch out, everybody.
Out. His hands probably trembling, shaking because he's so fucking old. I got a knife. Like he's struggling, holding a fucking knife, and y'all got guns and armor and shit. What the fuck are you? What are you afraid of? What the fuck? Excuse me? You think that this man has like some kind of ancient kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Power?
Bro,
or something?
Something that just remind me of what we talking about, bro. People, and you talking about sources before, bro. People do not know how statistics works, and it pisses me off to no end. Because people use stats to back their argument. You know how easy it is to manipulate numbers to make them sound better?
68% of statistics are made up.
Exactly. Bro. And it's like, even when you have sources to back things up, there's so many factors that go into how you actually get numbers and statistics that people don't really take into consideration. And even if you take in a college stats class, you understand like how many different things it is to just do simple problems, how long that process is. and how easy it is to get wrong because there's so many different things you have to plug in and variables. When you don't account for those things, stats look really good or really bad, and literally because of that, you can to get a stat to make it look in your favor no matter what your argument is. And it's like people are using them to be like, hey, look at this stat. And I guess we could kind of switch that into opinions, bro. See, look.
Opinions. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Next time.
Man, opinion.